My name is Dr. Rick Seguil.
And action. Hey, Jay had a... This is Kirk again.
Stress and investment.
And action. Hey everyone, it's Dr. Rick. Allie had a question about ulcerative colitis. Ulcerative colitis is essentially ulcers of the colon. I just did a video on reflux, which is essentially ulcers of the stomach. So I'll put the link down below. Check it out because a lot of the things we do to control ulcerative colitis are all based on first controlling the stomach. The stomach is the pacemaker for the entire digestive tract. So if the stomach is unhappy, small intestine will be super unhappy, and the colon will be really unhappy. So you should protect the colon by starting to protect and embrace the stomach. Now, the specifics. When we have ulcerative colitis, it's essentially irritation to the lining of the colon that has progressed so bad that it has ulcers in it. So the first thing would be that you always have to have a colonoscopy. I think a colonoscopy is important, at least a CT scan of the belly. And yes, those are both invasive and cost a lot of money, but you got to make sure there's nothing going on in the colon and or around the pelvis. Endometriosis can present this way. I'll do another video on that later. But so colonoscopy with a GI specialist and a CT scan of the abdomen and pelvis with contrast. I think those would be important. Now, if you don't have any insurance, okay, the first thing I do is take care of the stomach. Second thing I do is withdraw and do no further harm. So you're going to have to stop a couple things. Pretty much the same thing as stopping what you stop when you have an ulcer of the stomach. I say no dairy. That means no milk, no creamer, no yogurt, no ice cream, nothing, because I think it's irritating. The other thing is try to decrease on animal products. Animal products, I believe, cause an irritating reaction between all the foods that are out there, plant, fish, animal, beef, pork, seeds, nuts. I think that animal products cause the most irritation. Unless you specifically have had an allergy test and you know what you're intolerant to or allergic to, you got to cut that stuff out anyway. So decrease. And again, stay away from things that you know will cause a problem. Out of your life for 30 to 60 days, because it might take that long to heal up. These you're not going to like. Coffee and alcohol, no. So they irritate the stomach, but they also irritate the colon. They also irritate the small intestine. Most of us need coffee to wake up. So if you're going to have to stop coffee, pretend you're going to have a really bad coffee withdrawal for about 3 days. So prepare for it. It'll be like the flu. Like the keto flu. But how do we get past that? Well, you can do green tea. Green tea always helps. It has a little bit of caffeine in it. It has EGCG and some healing herbs or phytonutrients. Not as much caffeine as coffee, but honestly, if you need it for waking up, maybe just embrace a deeper sleep, which will get me to the psych part, but I'll get to that in a second. So alcohol's a no-no as well, so try to stay away from these things. The other thing is sugars. Sugars are just irritating to the microbiota, the probiotics of the belly. They also screw up with the lining. And even though the sugars or sugar substitutes like the pink packet, the white packet sugar, the yellows, the blues, all those things, even stevia to a certain degree, can cause an irritating reaction and an inflammatory reaction. We got enough inflammation already. So you're going to have a ton of withdrawal. I'm sorry, but really, you got to heal this baby up. So you really should stay away and do no further harm. So number one, help the stomach. Number two, avoid the irritants already, just for 30 to 60 days. Maybe you can get back into this stuff later, but not right now. They have to be 100% solved or resolved in remission before you can introduce anything. Maybe introducing one thing at a time will tell you what you really shouldn't have in your life. Your body's so brilliant, it'll tell you what you're not supposed to have. We just choose to ignore. So sometimes if you're not sure because you have too many medical problems, again, as long as the CT scan and the colonoscopy is okay, it might have to cool down all the other medical problems as well. But that's where the multidisciplinary approach of seeing a doctor is important. So we know what to avoid. Let's talk about a couple of things and regular eating is important. You can't eat haphazardly. You have to have at least a breakfast or a first meal and a dinner, second meal. Something in between would be fine, but we are probably too abundant with eating way too much and too often. So give the colon a break, and you'll see that even in fasting, an energy increases when you fast. So that's kind of cool. Things to treat. Well, slippery elm, marshmallow root and DGL are all mucilages. They work to, if my patients who take DGL, chewable DGL, if you mix it in with your saliva, it gets really slippery. Same thing with obviously slippery elm and marshmallow root. They're all powders. You put them into some liquid form or you chew them and you get them into your system. And they provide slipperiness, a mucus lining to the digestive tract. Now, if you happen to have a problem with mucus of the nose or chest mucus, you're going to increase it when you take this stuff. There's also orthomolecular mucosagen, has a nice product. It also adds mucus if you want to do a whole vat of that, which takes about 30 days. I think that'd be important. But you have to add these things to your diet to put a lining onto the ulcer. So just like an ulcer or canker sore, you want to put a lining on it, whether it's Malox or Mylanta, to stop the pain. When the ulcer is exposed, nerve endings are free, they just pound, they become very painful, especially when you expose yourself to normal liquids of the mouth or the colon. So when you put a lining on that, it decreases the pain. It makes you feel better a little bit, just for a short time. So those are important. And then, the other thing to consider, in addition to the mucilages, is anti-inflammatory. Turmeric, as I've spoken to before, is important for inflammation of the brain, the joints, the thyroid. So turmeric with black pepper gets absorbed into the bloodstream. Turmeric by itself kind of gets absorbed a little bit, but it makes its way through the small intestine and colon once you eat it. I would take the capsule more so than powder because I think higher concentrations would help. So turmeric powder is kind of okay. Sprinkling a little bit on your food, as long as it's not this food, is probably okay, but I do high dose because we want the inflammation controlled. So turmeric by New Chapter, although they were bought out by Procter & Gamble, probably still a good company, but I remember I called up New Chapter at one point to find out, how come you guys don't have pepper mixed in with your turmeric? And whoever was on the other line said, well, we don't need it, and that was their answer. So I stopped going to New Chapter, but they are okay. So if you can find it without black pepper, cool. If you want to go more aggressive, you can actually use an enema that's formulated with a compounding pharmacist to get anti-inflammatory in the colon via the enema. So that would help calm the inflammation of the colon by direct contact. Instead of you taking an anti-inflammatory pill, using an enema, although it's a little bit of a hassle to get the enema in, but it will help. A lot of patients do it. It's old school. I think a prescription can be written to a compounding pharmacy by your doctor, or your GI specialist will have the standard ones that are made and available in like Walgreens or CVS. 2 to 3 times a day would be helpful. For calming down for 30 to 60 days would be important. I think if you have the spasm that's associated with ulcerative colitis, bad spasm, there are antispasmodic medicines like Bentyl, but they cause drowsiness. There's actually enteric-coated peppermint that works great to relax muscle. The only problem is sometimes the peppermint, if it's not enteric-coated, will really tear up the stomach if you have a reflux problem too, so make sure it's enteric-coated. I spoke in the other video, which I'll put down below, about aloe vera. I'm not sure it gets all the way down to the colon to help with inflammation, but it'll help the stomach. Finally, there's also great information on probiotic use. There's some insurances cover a probiotic called VSL Double Strength number 3. VSL Double Strength number 3 is fantastic. It has been studied and its evidence is there. It supports the use, but it's a little pricey. So if you have good insurance, great, take it as a probiotic. You have to work your way into that because introducing your colon with a whole bunch of good bacteria all at once might be a little abrasive. You have to get used to it. So if you can't afford the VSL 3 double strength number 3, then go to your either your Fruitful Yield locally in Illinois or your Whole Foods market, wherever you are, and see what they have in the refrigerated section. A lot of my patients work at Fruitful Yield, and I know that the on-the-shelf ones that are probiotics and spored, I think they can last on the shelf long, but I'd rather have it in the fridge. So if it can get in the fridge, great, and change it every 3 months. I think by adding a new bacteria to the microbiota that you have that's formulated in your gut will help with immunity, will help with the healing process, will help with your brain actually, with calming. So it's important to change up, again, a little bit at a time. But I think probiotics actually help with appetite. So cool study when they took the feces of fat mice and put the feces into skinny mice in a small study. The skinny mice became fat, and the opposite happened too. The fat mice became skinny when they took the opposite. So I think the probiotic or the microbiota that you carry do have a DNA imprint that can make or break your health. Now, it's important, and this is why I think there's a problem with keto dieting. It's important to feed the probiotics that you take something. It has to be high fiber, varied fibers, veggies, a little bit of fruit, seeds, nuts, legumes. So you do have to get the fiber in, even grains, certain grains, if you're not allergic to wheat or gluten. You have to get the fiber in, which is usually lacking in a keto type practice. But just try not to introduce too many new things at the same time. Definitely the probiotic. There was a Dr. K downtown, I think it was University of Chicago, that did a study with ulcerative colitis patients in calming practice. This is supposed to be psych. Calming practice seemed to bring down the events of ulcerative colitis in sufferers. So I think that we don't have that much in the American culture to calm us. We have a lot to screw us up and stress us out. 50-hour work weeks, minimum wage, taxes, terrible weather. It's snowing now in Chicago. But if you have a calming practice, 5 minutes twice a day, I think it would help. I mean, it's not going to hurt. And what's 5 minutes out of your day? You can poop. You'll poop longer than 5 minutes. So why not do it? You just have to get a coach to teach you how to do that. A psychologist if you can. Finally, I have these things here. These are acupuncture needles. I think acupuncture or Ayurveda, old-fashioned Ayurveda, if you can find a Marma therapist and do Marma therapy, but they're hard to find. It's probably more advantageous and easier to find an acupuncturist. In Illinois, you have to be licensed. In other states, I'm not sure, it depends, but a traditional Chinese medicine doctor who has been trained in acupuncture from China, Beijing, would be great if you can find them. If not, check out the reviews for acupuncturists near you. If you are in Illinois and you want a couple of guys that I used, message me down below in the comments section. I'll tell you who I have used successfully in the past. So that is ulcerative colitis in a nutshell. If you just can't do this and you're suffering, if you can't do this right now and you're suffering, then we go to big gun medicines. Lialda is pretty decent, but I would not rely on that for long term. Once the Lialda controls your symptoms, you might want to then think about doing no further harm and then healing and sealing the gut. But don't just rely, if the GI specialist has you controlled, that's cool. In fact, there's also medical marijuana, which I didn't put here. CBD oil from hemp, or CBD by itself from hemp, or medical cannabis. Fantastic anti-inflammatory. I have about 3 patients that are weaning off either Crohn's disease or UC with the use of medical marijuana. We just went straight to the marijuana or the cannabis because they qualified for it. But if you don't qualify in the state of Illinois, you can use hemp. I have a great hemp supplier that's in Hoffman Estates and also in West Dundee. So again, comments down below and I'll let you know who these people are. But hopefully this gives you a little bit of, Allie, a little bit of idea about ulcerative colitis. If we get this ulcerative colitis under control, get this microbiota under control, number 1, we'll be able to have a better life. 2, we'll be able to lose weight because we stay away from offending agents. 3, the probiotics and the microbiota will help you calm and make you have less inflammation so we can go on and lose further weight. So if you like what I talk about, please hit the subscribe button and share this with other people that you know that might benefit from it. And hit the alert button down below too to find out when I do new videos. Otherwise, thanks for watching this far out. And if you have any comments, please put them down below. I'll see you in the next clinic.